Local news, national news, even feel-good news, delivering the topics that are relevant to you.
That's why I listen to Joe. He covers it all.
The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO.
So just an hour ago, I got an email from management. I'm not going to read the email because it could be proprietary or something, but in short, and it is a very short email, it's like literally 2 sentences, but it says effective immediately, we're not allowed to use ChatGPT at work on any devices. We can't use ChatGPT. I'm curious if anybody else has received those kinds of notifications at your places of employment. Have you been told about AI? Have you been told whether or not you're allowed to use AI? Have you been forbidden from using AI at your workplace? I feel like higher echelon management is using ChatGPT like crazy, but then for those of us down here in the trenches, that perhaps they don't want us experimenting with it. But I will tell you that pretty much since the day that ChatGPT went online, I have used it pretty much every day in some way, shape, or form or another. A lot of times just as a means of experimenting, just out of curiosity to see what ChatGPT can do. And dang, it can do a lot. It is truly revolutionary in the things that it can do. So I'm curious, at some point here during the show, give me a shout. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Or you can use the open mic in the WDBO app. Has your employer given you any kind of instructions on AI and whether or not you're allowed to use it? Not allowed to use it, if they're encouraging to use it, anything like that? I would be curious to get your take on that. Again, it's 844-580-WDBO. I want to welcome everybody here to the Joe Kelly Show, where everybody is welcome. It doesn't matter what letters you have next to your name. It doesn't matter if it's an R or a D or an I or an L or an MD or a DDS or an EIEIO. It just doesn't matter. We love you all, and we're glad to have you on the show. And our goal here is to make your drive home entertaining, enlightening, informational, at times comical, at times whimsical, at times farcical, at times popsicle. Just, we want to make sure that you're enjoying yourself. So you go home happy. We don't want people to get all riled up and angry about issues of the day and then go home and kick the dog and that kind of stuff. We're not going to have any of that. So we want you to enjoy the show. You can always watch the behind the scenes if you'd like to be able to do that. You can see the faces behind the voices, the faces behind the names. Just go to the WDBO Facebook page, and we've got a live video stream there as well. I will tell you that my hair is on point tonight, this afternoon, and Laurel is in her Star Wars gear, which is not a big surprise. We're playing a little bit of musical chairs here this evening, as Laurel is producing rather than anchoring, and then Nicole Diaz is anchoring rather than reporting. So musical chairs. Nicole, glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us here on the show tonight. All right, I want to get into the 5 proposals that the Orange County Tourism Task Force seems most likely to fund. So if you're new to Orlando, if you're new to Central Florida, maybe you're just new in general. Maybe you just got born. Maybe you just came out of a long coma. Whatever the case may be, we have here in Central Florida, one of the reasons why we don't pay a state income tax is because we make a boat ton of tax money off of our tourists. So tourists, when they come here, they are forced to pay something that is generally referred to as a bed tax. It's the TDT, the Tourism Development Tax, or a bed tax. It is a 6% sales tax paid by visitors for hotel rooms and short-term stays. In 2022, Orange County collected a record-breaking $336 million from the tax. So then all of these different venues, all of these different attractions and venues, city-owned, will come to the city and hold their hands out and say, please, sir, may I have some MOA? And they will try to get their share of the largesse. So a whole bunch of different organizations went and pitched yesterday, the Orange County Tourism Task Force, and came with their hands out and their hats in their hands and saying that they would like some of the money, and 5 projects kind of rose to the top. 5 projects. Let's start off with the project that didn't rise to the top, and that is the proposal for a new baseball stadium. It ranked very poorly on the task force survey. The project was requested by the Orlando City Baseball Dreamers and Pat Williams, and they're seeking almost $1 billion in tax revenue so that they can build a brand new state-of-the-art baseball stadium just on the south side of Aquatica and SeaWorld. Well, that ain't going to happen. At least by early accounts, that ain't going to happen. We aren't getting a Major League Baseball team because we don't have a Major League Baseball stadium, so put that aside. So the projects that did rise to the top, the projects that the committee is most considering, the task force, we'll start with Florida Citrus Sports and Florida Citrus Council for Camping World Stadium. This project ranked most favorably. Think about all the money that we have sunk into Camping World Stadium over the years, and we evidently will continue to sink into Camping World Stadium for, 6 events a year? 6 paying events a year. There's nonprofit events that take place there, weekly almost. But when it comes to actually making money, there's 6 or 7 events every year. So the Florida Citrus Council requested up to $800 million to remove and rebuild the upper terrace decks of the stadium and build a new field house. The upper decks are more than 30 years old. They replaced the lower decks a few years ago. Replacing the upper deck would allow builders to create a canopy over Camping World Stadium, which would allow for more flex space in bad weather. I'm still a little unclear on what a canopy is. I'm not dumb. I know what a canopy is. I'm a little unclear on what they mean by canopy in this context, because covering the totality of Camping World Stadium with a tarp or a canopy, I don't know how effective that would be. Clearly, there are engineers who master at this, and they know what they're talking about, and they know what they're doing. But who wants to sink more money into Camping World Stadium? 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-9326. I will tell you that in the last year, I've been to 2 events at Camping World Stadium. I went to the Monster Jam. Thoroughly enjoyed the Monster Jam. A lot of fun. But the Monster Jam's at night. The weather's a little bit cooler. It's not that bad. And then I took one of my sons to a game at Camping World Stadium, and it was a Guardians game, the Orlando Guardians, which is our XFL team. And I took one of my sons, and we sat. It was a daytime game, and we sat on the sunny side of the stadium because they weren't seating anybody on the shady side of the stadium because they didn't want the stadium to look completely empty. So they forced those few of us who went to the Guardians game to sit in the scorching sun so that they could put cameras on the other side of the field in the shade and be able to get better video shots of the game for the TV broadcast. But aside from those 2 events, that's it for me for Camping World Stadium. What about you? When was the last time you went to an event at Camping World Stadium? And do you think that we should sink another $800 million into Camping World Stadium? Or is it maybe time to raise it and start from scratch? Let's build a stadium that can maybe attract something rather than putting lipstick on a pig. And I'm not suggesting remotely that Camping World Stadium is a pig. It's just old. So do we keep throwing money into a really old facility, or do we say, all right, that's it. Let's build ourselves a new one. Something else instead. Now, I mentioned that's the first thing on their list, Camping World Stadium. That is the number one thing that ranks highest on the Orange County Tourism Tax Task Force. Whew, it's a mouthful. Next on the list is the Orange County Convention Center. Oh, good. Let's sink more money into the Orange County Convention Center. The Orange County Convention Center is seeking $586 million to expand, expected to be completed in 2027 or 2028. Now, this is a very self-serving effort because for every convention that comes to town, convention goers need to stay at hotels. And convention goers are going to pay the 6% bed tax. So it's almost a self-fulfilling revenue source. If the Orange County Convention Center expands and we book more conventions going forward here in Orlando, that means we're going to see more tax dollars go into the TDT, the tourist tax, tourist development tax. So while it may be a self-fulfilling income stream, the jobs that people have at the Orange County Convention Center are all crap. They're all low-paying jobs. None of them are high-tech. None of them are high wages. They're all crap jobs, just like the jobs at Camping World Stadium. They're all crap jobs that pay, minimum salaries. And they're not six-figure jobs that we would love to have here in Central Florida. Next on the list is an outdoor expansion of the Dr. Phillips Center. That should come as no surprise to anybody. At least the Dr. Phillips Center is still, relatively speaking, brand new. The Dr. Phillips Center in downtown Orlando still has plenty of room around it. That has always been part of the design plan. I think I can get behind expanding the Dr. Phillips Center, but man, getting behind expanding Camping World Stadium and the Orange County Convention Center to me that's a hard swallow. The outdoor expansion of the Dr. Phillips Center is going to include outside and outdoor-centric venue. They want to build an outdoor auditorium that can have up to 7,000 guests. That would be a nice little intimate place to see a concert. Also, a 750 seat theater exhibit space for food and beverage garden. Well, that sounds lovely, the Dr. Phillips Center. I think I'm down. I'm down for the Dr. Phillips Center, if for no other reason, because the Dr. Phillips Center is still moving up. The Dr. Phillips Center has yet to fully stretch out its legs and see what it can do. The Camping World Stadium and the Orange County Convention Center have stretched out their legs as far as they can go. There is nothing there that needs renovated with facilities that are as old as those are. Next on the list is the Amway Center for upkeep with necessary repairs. Nothing in specifics, just more money for the Amway Center. The Amway Center, I could certainly see putting a little bit of money into the Amway Center, as the Orlando Magic still have plans to build that entertainment center right next door where the old Orlando Police Department used to be. If you're new to Orlando, you may not know this. But that space where there is some parking just on the north side of the Amway Center was once the Orlando Police Department police headquarters. That, of course, has now moved over to OBT near State Highway 408. And last on the top 5 list is the UCF Athletics Village enhancements. UCF is requesting $176 million to enhance FBC Mortgage Stadium. I've got to be ignorant here. FBC Mortgage Stadium, is that the Bounce House? Is that their new sponsored name? Laurel, you're an alumnus. Nicole, you go to school there. Is it? You're shaking your head, yes?
Yes, that's the new name.
Okay, so the Bounce House then is FBC Mortgage Stadium. And last time you were at the Bounce House,
I think that happened like in the last year or two.
And Nicole, I mean, I have, in all honesty, never been to the Bounce House. I've never been to FBC Mortgage Stadium. I trust you have. Mm-hmm. And just at glance around, are there things lacking out there?
I mean, yeah. To me, I think the biggest thing is that the part where the students sit shakes up and down a lot, and I feel like it's gonna like drop at any point because they start bouncing.
Thus the Bounce House,
right? But it squeaks a lot, like more than it should. And I mean, yeah, it could use like, I don't know, new paint, pressure cleaning, like that kind of stuff. I don't know if it needs like
it does
lot of money, but
it does always scare me when I see the students bouncing up and down when I'm watching.
Yeah, I don't sit
TV.
in the student section because I get a little iffy about that. But
and I pray that never, ever, ever do we have a breaking news story out of Central Florida that a stadium has collapsed during a game or something.
I would hope not. But we're in the Big 12 now, so everything is a little more elevated.
Yep, you're absolutely right. All right, let us know, 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You guys have always told us you want to know how taxpayer dollars are being spent, and we are telling you how taxpayer dollars are being spent. So give us your input on it right now at 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-9326, or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
Now, the three big things you need to know.
3. Travelers are dealing with another day of flight disruptions due to severe weather. According to FlightAware, over 4,000 flights have been delayed or canceled nationwide today. 2. Consumer confidence is at its highest level in 18 months. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index jumped more than 7 points in June. 1. Florida's largest police union is endorsing Governor Ron DeSantis for the Republican nomination of the president. The association hailed DeSantis as the most effective governor in the nation who will make the public safety a top priority in the White House.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
Yeah, this is Kevin from Apopka. I got a news flash for you, dude. Almost every job in this state is a crap paying job.
Yeah.
Anything under $21, $22 an hour nowadays is a crap paying job.
Yeah.
You got dirtbags down here paying $12, and that's like they're giving you something.
I agree 100% that incomes have not kept up with the cost of living, have not kept up with inflation. And that's why when I see that they want to spend more tourism tax dollars on convention space, and the people who work those jobs, you know, you're talking about porters and transportation experts and others who, you know, move stuff around and show people around and stuff like that. Those just are not sophisticated, high-paying jobs. I would love to see our city, you know, instead invest some money, you know, into chip manufacturing or something else along those lines, something other than you know, more low-paying jobs here in Central Florida.
Joe, the Hard Rock Stadium down there in Miami has a canopy. Just a little quick Google search should be able to clear it up for you there, bud.
I appreciate that. And, you know, I looked it up after I heard that open mic. I looked it up, and I'm going to have to sit down with an architect and have someone that explain that to me. Man, I am struggling. Even as I looked at the pictures of the Hard Rock Stadium, I can't figure out where the canopy is. It looks more like there's a retractable roof on the Hard Rock Stadium. I've never been to Hard Rock. I've driven past, but I've never been to a game at Hard Rock Stadium because, you know, money. But it looks more like a roof than it does a canopy as I know it. You can join me now, 844-580-WDBO. Use the open mic and the WDBO app.
Joe, I'm really not in favor of giving any of those places more money, except maybe UCF. So far as Dr. Phillips, how many of us people can afford to even go down there and see a good play or anything? It's gotten so out of sight financially. Tell me, what needs to be done? I know there's been talk about how they can change what they can spend this money on so that it can go toward something important that we need, like roads and so forth.
All right, hang on. We'll answer that question next here on The Joe Kelly Show.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. Join the conversation now by using the open mic in the WDBO app. Now, The Joe Kelly Show on Orlando's news and talk, WDBO.
Ever miss a minute of the show? You can check out the Joe Kelly Show podcast wherever you get your podcast. It's in Apple Podcasts. It's in Spotify. It is in the WDBO app. It's on the on-demand button. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Just look for the Joe Kelly Show. Okay, I want to circle back and answer this open mic question.
Joe, I'm really not in favor of giving any of those places more money, except maybe UCF. So far as Dr. Phillips, how many of us people can afford to even go down there and see a good play or anything? It's gotten so out of sight financially. Tell me, what needs to be done? I know there's been talk about how they can change what they can spend this money on so that it can go toward something important that we need, like roads and so forth?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And just know that these are separate financial silos. The money with the tourism tax dollars is in a separate silo of money that is used for roads and bridges, which is in a separate silo that is used for education, which is in a separate silo that is used for healthcare, which is in a separate silo. These are all, in most cases, separate monies. But this one in particular, the tourism tax task force and the so-called bed tax, anybody who receives taxpayer dollars from the bed tax has to be able to regenerate more money to go into the bed tax. So that's why we're talking about things that tourists would do, like go to a football game at Camping World Stadium, like go to a Major League Baseball game at a Major League Baseball stadium that we don't have and evidently aren't going to get. Like come into town to see a Broadway musical at the Dr. Phillips Center. Like come into town to go to a convention at the Orange County Convention Center. Like come into town to see a concert, to see Justin Bieber or Lady Gaga or Dua Lipa or somebody at the Amway Center. I mean, anybody who receives money from the TDT, from the bed tax, has to thus contribute back to the bed tax, which is something that our roads and bridges just don't do. In fact, people probably avoid Florida to get around our roads and bridges. Earlier in this hour, we're also talking about ChatGPT. We got a note from management saying that we are not allowed to use ChatGPT. And I find that to be a little bit surprising. I'd kind of think they would encourage us to use it and find new ways to innovate. But I threw out the question whether or not your company has established any parameters on AI and in particular ChatGPT.
Joe, I am a commercial painter. I told my boss that I was going to try and use ChatGPT to make our job easier. He smiled and said that if I can figure out how to get ChatGPT to paint the inside of the 40,000 square foot warehouse we're working on, that he would fire the other 5 guys and double my pay. I am hard at work at it right now.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We should all be inspired to want to use an AI bot to see what we can get it to do. Because look, odds are out there that some, if not all, of us could be replaced in the future with AI. So why don't you at least let us experiment with AI now to see if it can enhance our jobs rather than replace our jobs?
The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO.
Rob Cross is out for the week. Beverly Bentley Steele is doing a great job holding down our traffic reporting duties. Hello, BBS.
Hello, Joe Kelly. Well, we are seeing a situation on I-4 heading eastbound, approaching Lee Road. In fact, it's solid from Princeton to Lee, where there's a crash, and it's the off-ramp that's got the right lane blocked there. There's also a wreck on John Young Parkway heading southbound at Taft Island. That's got the right lane blocked. And West Colonial heading eastbound past the fairgrounds. 2 right lanes are blocked. There was also reports of an object on the road, I-4 Express heading westbound around mile marker 91, and that object is in the right lane. I'll be checking the cameras on that one. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Beverly Bentley Steele.
I always hate when I hear objects in the road. Objects in the road can be so dangerous, and it's always such a great reminder to secure your loads, whether you're carrying something in your trunk or in the back of your pickup truck or on your big rig or whatever it is. Secure your loads. A very, very, very dear friend of mine many years ago, he and I regrettably weren't able to talk too much after this happened. But a very dear friend of mine was out riding his motorcycle, and somehow a bed mattress was on the highway, and he was at full speed and hit a mattress. And one would think, in a perfect world, you're gonna flip off your motorcycle and land gently on the mattress. No, that did not happen. And he suffered a traumatic brain injury. And in fact, he was my boss for a number of years. And after that, to be honest, I never saw him again. So please, please, please know that for some cars, it'll cause a little bit of damage if you didn't secure your load. But for motorcyclists, it can kill them. Or I don't want to say worse. I think death is about as bad as it gets, but it can kill them, and it can do some serious serious harm to a lot of people. So please, please, please secure your loads. I did see an interesting story out of Florida as a Florida homeowner grabs his rifle and shoots at a pool cleaner that he thought was an intruder. The pool cleaner had been coming to the same home for more than 6 months. In fact, that same pool company had been cleaning that guy's pool for more than 3 years. But he did show up at night to clean the pool. On June 15th, around 9 p.m., this guy shows up to clean a pool. He really should have rang the doorbell first or texted the owners and said, hey, heads up, I know I'm not usually here this late. It's dark out, but I'm going to be in the backyard cleaning your pool. Should have given a heads up to the homeowner. He didn't do that. Maybe he thought he could just get in and out and clean the pool and be on his way. But the homeowners inside the house heard noises coming from their pool, looked out the window. They saw a man walking around their pool in the screened-in yard. They told deputies they didn't recognize the man and said he was close to the house and moving towards the door. The woman locked the side door and yelled at her husband that there was someone at their pool deck. The woman called 911, and the man went to grab his Colt M4 carbine rifle. According to the sheriff, this is the sheriff saying this, not me, the Colt M4 carbine rifle is what most people would call an AR-15. The rifle had a 30-round magazine, fully loaded, and the homeowner shot all 30 rounds. 30 rounds out his window with the blinds down. Out his window, this guy just indiscriminately shooting 30 rounds indiscriminately into his backyard, many of those rounds making it into his neighbors' yards. Well, the homeowner is not going to be charged with a crime. The homeowner says no crime was committed. This falls under Florida's Stand Your Ground law, that you do not have to retreat if you feel threatened. And you know, if you want to split hairs here with the letter of the law versus the intent of the law, I suppose we could have that conversation. But what really gets me is, when did we become such a nation of sissies? When did we become so scared that we shoot at people in our driveway when they turn around in our driveway? Why do we shoot people when they knock on our door at the wrong house, mistakenly showing up at the wrong house, and we shoot through the door? How do we think that's okay? You know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can open fire with 30 rounds with a Colt M4 carbine rifle, carbine, with an M4 rifle, just because you can get away with it, it doesn't mean you should. What a sissy for the homeowner to just be shooting there through the windows into whatever was outside around your pool. It just really gripes me that homeowners are and really gun owners are getting a pass for stuff like this. Now, I should have pointed out that the pool cleaner ran away after the first 2 shots. The homeowner failed to hit him in 30 shots because he's shooting indiscriminately out a window with the blinds down. He had no idea what he was shooting at. He had no idea where the target was. Thank God the pool cleaner didn't get hit or killed. Thank God nobody got hit or killed, because this homeowner was dreadfully irresponsible in shooting out his window at 9 o'clock at night in the dark, not being able to see what in the world it is you're shooting at. I'm sorry, but, you know, if a million scenarios could have happened. The neighborhood children might have thought, let's go swim in the neighbor's pool. And you might have the right to shoot them, understand your ground. But it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it a good idea. It's a terrible idea. It is a terrible idea to point your automatic, semi-automatic weapon out the window and just start indiscriminately shooting 30 rounds. Now, if you want to sit, if you want to pull up a chair, here's what I would do. I've got a very similar rifle. I will pull up a chair. If I think someone is out in my backyard, I'm pulling up a chair by the back window, and I got my rifle loaded. I've got a chamber in the round, a round in the chamber. I don't think I slept last night. I've got a round in the chamber. I've got the safety off. My finger's off the trigger, but it's ready. And the second someone comes through that door, as soon as that door busts open, they're not going to make it past the threshold. But in no way am I shooting through a door. In no way am I shooting through a window. And anybody who does so is terribly, terribly irresponsible. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app if you disagree, agree. I don't care. I'm just telling you how I feel. I'm not here to change your opinion. I'm just here to share my opinion and hear what you think. So there's no judgment here. I just want to know if you think I'm way off my rocker or if you think I'm on target, if you will. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Laurel is answering the phones tonight, or you can use the open mic in the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO. Talk and discussion on the latest breaking national news.
Crude oil prices continue to fall.
Local news.
You're not going to have Disney have its own government in Central Florida.
And stories that matter to you. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let your voice be heard on the Joe Kelly Show.
All right, a pool cleaner decides to come clean a client's pool at 9 o'clock at night. It's dark. Look, the pool cleaner should have texted the owner or knocked on the door and said, hey, just let you know I'm going to be cleaning the pool. He didn't. It was dark outside. The homeowner saw movement out the pool, and the homeowner grabs his semi-automatic rifle and starts shooting. He shot 30 rounds. He emptied a magazine, a 30-round magazine, shooting 30 rounds into through the back windows, through closed blinds, never once actually hitting the pool cleaner, but hitting a lot of other things. But he emptied his magazine, and they're not charging the homeowner with a crime because they say it is a stand your ground. Let's go to Hal in Orlando. Hey, Hal, you're on the Joe Kelly Show. How are you? Hal, are you with me? Hal, open the pod bay
Can you
doors.
hear me now?
Yes, Hal. Hello. How are you?
All right. Sorry about
That's all right.
Yeah, I'm too blessed to be stressed, but I'm interested in your little deal there. I'm an attorney, and I've litigated stand your ground before. This homeowner had absolutely no right whatsoever to fire out his window. Florida stand your ground rule doesn't say if you can see him on your property and get him in your sights, you can pop him. It says you don't have the obligation to retreat if A, you're where you're allowed to be, and B, preferably they're not, and C, you're threatened specifically with death or great bodily harm so that any other reasonable person standing in your shoes would think they were about to die. This guy can't make that case.
No, I don't think so either.
He should have been charged for reckless display of a firearm, at the very least. And thank God he didn't hit the pool guy, or he'd have been charged with manslaughter.
One would hope he would be charged with manslaughter. Hal, I'm so glad you called and shared your expertise. Thank you so very much for that. By the way, if you want to see the video, it was captured on their surveillance video, and we've got it in this story in the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO. Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
There's a crash on I-4 heading eastbound, but it's at Lee Road, and it's at the off-ramp. It is blocking the right lane of that off-ramp, but it's also causing solid backups from downtown from before Princeton. And there's a crash on I-4 westbound just past 436. That's on the right shoulder of the road. And the object in the road on the I-4 Express westbound around 436, that has been cleared, thank goodness. There is a crash on John Young Parkway heading southbound past the beach line. That's got the right lane blocked. Our traffic report is brought to you by ProTech Air Conditioning and Plumbing Service. For honesty, integrity, and 100% customer satisfaction, call ProTech at 407-291-1644 or visit ProTechAC.com. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Beverly Bentley Steele.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. In-depth segments on topics that matter to Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO.
I love your show every night. You're doing great, bud.
Hey, if you're just joining us here on the Joe Kelly Show on WDBO, we are talking about a Florida man, a homeowner, I never said where this was, did I? Dunedin. It's in Dunedin, and it happened June 15th, 9 o'clock at night. A pool cleaner, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that happens every day in Florida. A pool cleaner shows up at the house, lets himself into the backyard, and starts cleaning the pool. But it happened to be at 9 o'clock at night. The sun had already set. It was dark outside, and he was running late cleaning his pools, and he wanted to make sure he stopped and cleaned that pool, so he did it at 9 o'clock at night. Now, you and I would look at that and say, you know what? Maybe you should knock on the door and let them know you're going to be there in the backyard, or send a text message or call them and say, hey, this is your pool cleaner. Just let you know I'm going to be in your backyard cleaning your pool. It's a little late. Do you mind if I clean your pool that late? Should have done that. He didn't do that. But to me, that's where the blame for the pool cleaner ends. The homeowner and his wife get flipped out after they see motion in their backyard. And instead of growing a pair and maybe opening the door and saying, can I help you? Or shouting through the door, hey, what are you doing here? Instead of any of that, the guy goes and fetches his Colt M4 rifle with a 30-round magazine, shoots through the closed blinds on the window. The homeowner fired 2 shots at first, at which point the shattered glass did cause minor injuries to the pool cleaner. The pool cleaner was not hit by any bullets. But after the first 2 shots, the pool cleaner, understandably, ran like hell. He was gone by the time the homeowner finished emptying the magazine. He fired 2 rounds, broke the windows, pool guy takes off. Then the homeowner fires 28 more rounds blindly through the windows, fortunately not hitting anybody or anything that was alive. Hit a couple houses, hit some yards, hit some landscaping. But the dude shot 30 freaking rounds through the window with closed blinds.
Do we know how old the homeowner that shot the 30 rounds was? Maybe he had a senile moment.
And that's a fair question. I think that's a fair question. I would say he's 57 years old. His wife is 43. Now, I know some people can be senile at 57. I know that some people have early onset dementia. And if that's the case, take his guns away. When my former father-in-law started coming down with dementia, I mean, that was the first thing we did, was take his guns away so that he wouldn't do something like that. But at this guy at 57, statistically speaking, he probably doesn't suffer from dementia. He does suffer from being a moron for firing through the window blinds with the blinds closed.
Hey, Joe, the day you are a victim of someone breaking into your house and breaking into your car.
Well, hang on a second. Hang on. The pool boy didn't break into the house. The pool boy didn't break into the car. I don't know what you mean until it happens to you. That didn't happen to that homeowner.
On your property, then you should talk. Otherwise, you should not rest your opinion on what you're saying.
Okay. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? Everybody having a good day? Good. So, I'm a gun owner. I'm an American citizen. I have every right in the world to talk about an idiotic gun owner who's going to ruin it for all the rest of us. I'll never understand people who say, you have no right to be da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. This is America, bro. We can talk about whatever we want, whenever we want, however we
You
want.
should not say what you're saying. It's incorrect. Many people over the age of 50 have been victimized in this Florida state. Many. Thousands.
Yeah, all right. But this guy wasn't. This guy wasn't victimized. This guy was a moron. This guy fired through closed blinds blindly at a man that wasn't even there anymore. He took off running. There was no threat. The threat didn't exist. There was no threat in the first place. And certainly after the pool boy took off running, there was no threat that remained. You don't get to just start shooting when there's no threat.
Hey, Joe, I totally agree with you that that gentleman was completely irresponsible. I want to know, do you think that we're going to have an increased amount of incidents of these things happening, especially with the new Florida gun law that was passed regarding, concealed carry?
Gosh, that's a good question. And I wish I had a clear answer to that. I wish I was clairvoyant. I wish my magic 8-ball gave me legit answers, rather than, ask again later. And I guess the question comes down to you. Are you going to do anything different beginning July 1st? I am not. I'm not changing any of my behaviors, any of my habits beginning July 1st with a change in the gun laws because I already have a concealed handgun license. What they're going to legalize on July 1st has already been legal for me anyway. So I'm not going to change my behavior. Are you going to change your behavior? Are you waiting until July 1st to say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to start carrying a gun now that I don't have to have a license? The license was the only thing that was preventing me from carrying a gun. And now I'm going to start carrying a gun. Frankly, I'd like to know, do you have any changes planned for July 1st? 844-580-WDBO. 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app. Bad guys are always going to be bad guys. Good guys will mostly always be good guys. And people who want to do destruction with guns have always been able to do so and will continue to be able to do so.
And I got to say, that guy is a real jerk. He can't use stand your ground law. I believe that you have to at least be able to see who's coming before you shoot anyone and not just use it blindly. He's wrong, and then he should lose all his guns, and he should go to jail for that. To stop people from being idiots and making us good gun owners look bad.
Yeah, that's how I feel, that he's making all of us, good gun owners look bad.
Hey, Joe, I usually listen to you every day. And you have a very good opinion.
Laurel, can you tell where this open mic is going?
Yeah, a big butt's coming.
Right? I think we should guess the butt. What is the butt that is coming? Because there's clearly a butt that is coming.
Hey, Joe, I usually listen to you every day.
But?
And you have very good opinions.
But?
And views that you express on the radio station.
But
this time, you're off your damn rockers.
And you didn't even specify what I'm off my damn rockers about. We talk about a lot of things. I don't even know what you're being specific about. I may well be off my damn rockers. It just depends. What are you talking about?
Hey, Joe, William from Orlando. Avid gun owner here myself. Anyone who thinks it's okay to blow through a window or a door without seeing what's on the other side is a total idiot fool that should not be able to even drive a car, let alone own a gun or even a pocket knife. You do not need an AR-15 to defend your home. I have plenty, but I also have a Kel-Tec, which is just perfect for home defense. You're not going to kill your neighbor, but you will defend your home. People need to wise up.
People do indeed. 844-580-WDBO. Eric is on the Joe Kelly Show. Hi, Eric. How are you?
How's it going?
Good.
Hello?
Hi. Are you going to change your behavior with regards to guns beginning July 1st?
No, sir. I've carried a gun in my truck since I was old enough to carry one. But as far as constitutional carry, I've had my permit to carry a handgun on me at all times. But, you know, as a hunter, we've always carried rifles in our trucks. There are certain people that should not have guns at all.
True.
Like Keller just had that conversation. That is very true. The first rule of gun is you know what you're shooting at when you pull the trigger.
Right, which that guy clearly did not know what he was shooting at as he was pulling the trigger. Eric, I'm curious at your opinion about this. You heard the open mic. The woman asked, do you think it's going to get worse July 1st? What about you? Do you think that we're going to see more or less gun violence starting July 1st?
I don't think it's going to be gun violence. I think it's going to be gun stupidity.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it.
The gun violence is from the criminals. It's not from the people that want to protect their families and their person. It's going to be, if it's anything more, it's going to be from the stupidity that people, use guns, like the guy that you were just talking about, that he had no sense of what he was doing or shooting at, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we'll always, every now and again you'll see even police officers do this, that they'll leave their gun behind in a bathroom stall somewhere. Some people who just aren't accustomed to carrying firearms all the time, if they start carrying...
I've seen that.
Yeah. I know, it's always weird. I mean, I've seen like school resource officers who have accidentally left their guns in a bathroom stall. That is remarkably dangerous to do something like that. Eric, I'm so glad you called. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app.
You're more on target than that idiot. Hopefully they take his guns away. But I agree. People need to think before they shoot.
Yeah, I do. But it doesn't appear that they're going to take his guns away. I mean, because they're saying that he's not going to be charged. He's been exonerated thanks to the Stand Your Ground law. Let's go to Peter at 844-580-9326. You're on the Joe Kelly Show. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Joe. Just the reason I'm calling it the homeowner is 50% right because at 9 o'clock at night, if you see somebody at dark, you will get scared too, come on, you will get berserk, you will get...
I totally agree.
I know, but...
Peter, I'm right there with you. That would scare me if I saw something in my backyard at 9 o'clock at night, yes. And to be fair, the homeowners did call the police, which they should have. I mean, that should have been the first thing they do is call the police, get the police at least rolling out there. So they did call the police, but they just took that next step with a semi-automatic rifle and a 30-round magazine and unloaded it, and that was a step too far.
It was wrong, but, anybody will freak out, and people with a bad experience, there's a lot of crimes out there, especially with older folks, so one way he's right, one way he's wrong, but that's what I think.
Peter, I'm glad you called. Thank you so much, man. I'm glad to know you're out there listening. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. Coming up in a moment, how patriotic do you think Florida is? Do you think we're a patriotic state? We'll get into the definition of patriotic for this purpose and tell you how remarkably high or low on this list we are. So hang on. That'll be coming up next here on The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO.
The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO. News, weather, traffic, all the things you want on your drive home. Plus, Joe Kelly being, well, Joe Kelly. Now, The Joe Kelly Show on Orlando's News and Talk, WDBO.
844-580-WDBO. All opinions are welcome. Good opinions, bad opinions, weird opinions, controversial opinions, mainstream opinions. It doesn't matter. If you have an opinion, we want to hear it. 844-580-WDBO. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. We're talking, if you're just joining us, we're talking about a homeowner in Dunedin, a 57-year-old man, his 43-year-old wife, 9 o'clock at night a couple weeks ago, and the pool cleaner shows up in the backyard to clean the pool. The homeowner has a semi-automatic rifle and unloads a 30-round magazine shooting through the closed blinds in his window. slightly injuring the pool cleaner because of the glass breakage. He had some of the glass that hit him, but none of the bullets hit the pool cleaner. The pool cleaner took off. He head for the hills after 2 shots, but the homeowner unloaded 28 more rounds after that, after the threat was long gone from his neighborhood, which by definition means there is no ground to stand. You don't need to stand your ground in a scenario like that if there is no threat that is pursuing you. But the state is not going to charge this guy because of stand your ground. Carl is joining us here on WDBO on the Joe Kelly Show. Hi, Carl. Carl? Is he potted up? Carl once, Carl twice. All right, Carl, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's check an open mic.
As a 30-year competitive shooter and a firearms instructor, him owning a Colt M4 should have been the first clue. Secondly, I have taught everybody to identify the target, know what their target is and what is beyond for over 20 years. Yeah, he was absolutely wrong. He was wrong the moment he fired the first shot.
And I can tell you that beginning July 1st, as you well know, you are no longer required to have a concealed handgun license to be able to carry a concealed handgun. I have a concealed handgun license in Florida. Prior to Florida, I had a concealed handgun license in Oklahoma. Prior to Oklahoma, I had a concealed handgun license in Texas. Prior to Texas, I had a concealed handgun license in Nevada. That was where I started my adventure with firearms. I never owned a firearm in my life until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. No, late 20s, early 30s, somewhere thereabouts. It was the first time I ever owned a firearm. And I got to tell you that I think you're a fool if you carry a gun without any training whatsoever. I know that it's legal beginning July 1st in Florida, but I think it's foolish for anybody to just suddenly say, I'm going to put a gun in my purse, I'm going to put a gun in my waistband, I'm going to put a gun in my ankle, I'm going to put a gun in the glove box, I'm going to put a gun wherever. If you don't have any training on that gun, if you don't know anything about that gun, at the very least, I mean, you need to know how to clean your firearm. You need to know how to strip it down and clean it so that if you do fire it or when you do fire it, it's going to work right. I mean, cleaning a firearm is an incredibly important part of the process of being a firearm owner. And I just don't know that if anybody is going to change their gun behavior on July 1st, if they're going to know that, if they're going to understand the importance of cleaning your firearm, if they're going to understand the importance of that kind of maintenance for your guns and stuff. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app. My name is Joe Kelly. You are listening to The Joe Kelly Show.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Connected to our community. Talk local issues and events with Joe Kelly. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let Joe know what interests you. The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO.
Well, I got the notification from my computer today here at work, and it said it's time to update your password. So I had to change my password. Is that not the most frustrating first world problem that we have these days, is having to come up with a new password? I mean, Laurel, we have gone through like every iteration of passwords like over the past decade.
Yeah.
And then the company was like, well, you can't use the same password you've used in the past or variations.
And then they're like, then it has to be a whole phrase, and then it has to be, and I'm like, oh gosh, you're changing it so many times.
Right. So we're allowed to use phrases now, right? Not just a word and symbols. We can use a phrase with spaces and everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we could use full sentences if you could remember the sentence.
Yeah, that's the key.
Because I have gone through every imaginable iteration of name dates and birth dates, those kinds of things, those kinds of passwords, that you're not supposed to use. So I've gone through every imaginable combination of birthdays, names, and everything. And as I had to change my password today, gosh, I want to tell you what I changed it to, but I don't want to tell you what I changed it to for obvious reasons.
You'll probably get an email from HR.
Yeah. Like,
from
Joe,
IT.
Joe, stop giving out your password on the radio. This is what they're going to say, right?
Yeah, something like that.
12 monkeys. Thank you, Michael, in the chat. And Brad Pitt was in that movie, too, the movie 12 Monkeys. Honestly, if you don't think that Brad Pitt is an Oscar award-winning or an Academy Award caliber actor, you got to see Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys with Bruce Willis. And what was that woman's name? Madeline Stowe was her name. Actually, weirdly, it still is her name, I'm told. Madeline Stowe. But Brad Pitt was amazing in that movie. It was a really good movie. But the reason why we came up with 12 Monkeys again is because I was trying to come up with new passwords. So it's like I need a number, I need a capital letter, I need some sort of a symbol. Like, without giving away a password, Laurel, what would a phrase be? Like, what do you mean by we can use a phrase?
Like 6 brown dogs jump or something like that.
Okay, so we could use that as a password.
Yeah, like apparently. Mine's not like that because I only have so much space in my brain.
That's not where I am.
And they need to let us use emojis.
Yeah, and then if we could write it down and then just have it on a Post-it note, but then that kind of beats the point of having a password at that point, right?
Yeah, we'd get in trouble for that.
All right, so Wallet Hub did a study with the 4th of July coming up, and the Wallet Hub said, all right, the 2023 most patriotic states in America. Would you guys think that Florida does well or poorly in patriotic? Now, let me give you the definitions here. So they use 2 key factors to determine the rankings. The 2 key factors are military engagement and civic engagement. Okay? So for military engagement, that should be pretty simple, right? States can be ranked up to a total of 25 points based on categories like veterans per 1,000 civilian adults, active duty military personnel per 100,000 civilian adults, and more. In the civic engagement category, that includes factors like the share of adults who voted in the 2020 presidential election, the amount of residents who participate in groups or organizations, and 7 other metrics. And how would you think Florida did? Anybody want to guess?
I bet we did well. I know we like whenever I go to like voting places, there's always a lot of retirees that are there doing their civic duties and stuff. And I know a lot of people in the military are from here, so I think well.
Well, I don't know how to break this to you.
Uh-oh.
We do very, very, very poorly.
Oh, wow.
We are 46 out of 50 states. We're the 46th least patriotic state out of 50?
What?
So the only states worse than us are New York, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Arkansas. Arkansas, by the way, it doesn't matter what the list is. Arkansas is always at the bottom of every list of states. Doesn't matter what it is. They're the worst state always in all cases. The top state, number 1 overall, is Virginia. Well, Virginia is in large part a suburb of Washington, D.C., and a lot of people who work in D.C. Live in Virginia. That's number 1. But number 2 is nowhere near Virginia. It's Montana, followed by Alaska, North Dakota, and Maine, rounding out your top 5. So Florida is not a very patriotic state, I got to say. I find that to be interesting. And, I remember, like, when I lived in Texas, Texas is a very patriotic state for Texas. Texas is a very pro-Texas state. Now, whether or not they're, American patriots versus Texas patriots, Texas is kind of smack dab in the middle. They're at 33rd. They're on the lower end of the middle, but they're a 33rd out of 50 states. Texas is, but Florida is damn near the bottom of that list, which is kind of stinks. I would think we'd be slightly more patriotic than that. There is an effort afoot in multiple cities across the country to ban drive-thru restaurants, saying that drive-thru restaurants were certainly a thing when McDonald's and Sonic and a few other drive-ins got started back in the day, back in the 1950s. Drive-thrus first appeared in California in the 50s. I mean, drive-thrus are part of our car-centric communities, but we're not as car-centric as we once were. And now a lot of communities are saying we're not going to build any new fast food drive-thrus. And some cities are even going so far as to saying that fast food restaurants have to close their drive-thrus. There are some restaurants, a lot of fast food restaurants actually, that make more money from their drive-thrus than they do from dine-in. McDonald's is an example of that. Their drive-thru window accounts for 70% or more of sales. 70% of sales in the drive-thru. I can tell you that I've lived in one community in my life where they banned drive-thrus of any kind, and that includes bank drive-thrus, dry cleaning drive-thrus, and that was in Carmel, California. I lived in Pacific Grove, which is a neighboring city to Carmel, and Carmel outlawed drive-thrus. And I got to tell you, that is the quaintest little community that has no drive-thrus. I mean, it's really quaint. I mean, I think retroactively making a city the mass of Orlando get rid of fast food drive-thrus, that just ain't going to happen. But I would not be surprised if we see, building inspectors and others who deal with, municipal code saying that we're not going to allow new fast food restaurants with drive-thrus. Anybody have a problem with that? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326, or you can use the open mic in the WDBO app. My name is Joe Kelly. You're listening to The Joe Kelly Show. You can look for The Joe Kelly Show podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO. Insightful.
You tell the truth from your point of view.
Entertaining.
Man, that guy is a lot taller than he sounds on the radio.
And engaging.
When we hear you on the radio, it's a good thing.
The Joe Kelly Show on WDBO.
I heard Eric Erickson talking about this earlier today, and I saw the story first yesterday, and I thought it was interesting. And you may have heard the story by now. It's late in the day, but a janitor that was working at a private research university in Troy, New York, destroyed 25 years of scientific research by cutting power to a super cold storage freezer because of an annoying alarm. There was this alarm going off on a storage freezer, and the janitor was there, cleaning up. And the elements inside the freezer are stored at negative 112 degrees Fahrenheit. And they were destroyed when he unplugged them, and they reached negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit. There was a sign on the freezer. Get this. There was a sign on the freezer that read, quote, "This freezer is beeping as it is under repair. Please do not move or unplug it. No cleaning required in this area." You can press the button. You can press the alarm test mute button for 5 to 10 seconds if you would like to mute the sound. So there was a sign on the freezer saying don't unplug it. But the janitor, evidently tired of hearing the beeping, unplugged it. Now, of course, I have to wonder if the janitor speaks or reads English, because it is entirely possible. I know, for an example, a lot of businesses, when they're trying to put out trash, they will label it both in English and in Spanish so that the trash gets taken out. In fact, I only know the Spanish word for trash, because of every time I see it written down on our trash canisters and stuff outside. But it reminds me of when I was 15 years old. It was the very first radio station I ever worked at. 15 years old. And Laura, this was even before, I think, your time, when they had cart machines. Did you ever work with cart machines?
Yeah, no. They were going to teach us for a split second in college, and they're like, never mind, you're never going to use it.
Yeah, no, you're never going to use it. So the cart machine, it's about the size of a bread toaster, and it plays audio cartridges that had songs, commercials, whatever on it. And I'm there alone one day, and I'm a teenager. I'm 15, 16 years old, and I'm all by myself, and the cleaning ladies come in, and I'd never seen them in the control room before. I'd never seen them in our studio before. The cleaning people always had stayed outside of our studios, but this woman was very confident in her work, and she was very determined to get it done. And she comes into the studio, and she starts dusting the countertop, and she starts cleaning things. And ultimately, she grabs a cart machine and pulls it out of the way so she can dust underneath it. But in doing so, she completely unplugged the cart machine while we were on the air. It's not the same as destroying 25 years worth of experiments, but hearing the song, the Debbie Gibson song, suddenly stop in its tracks certainly gave me a bit of a heart attack back in the day. I'm Joe Kelly. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sean Hannity is coming up next here on WDBO.